Hi, hello, welcome. Um, I guess I could have taken this off my head, but it's fine. Well, since I still have these in, let me play some. I'll play my Peaceful Meditations playlist. So the thing I love about the top of the month is that all of my favorite readers come back. And Queen Cut didn't upload in June because she said she wasn't feeling it, like it didn't really feel necessary. And then she said that some of her indigenous sisters told her that, for those who follow the Syrian star, they're coming upon the end of the year. So it doesn't really make sense to do anything right now anyway because the energy is about to shift. Um, and I've been feeling that. That's why I'm just like in this space of waiting, even though I don't want to be. Because it's like you're going to modify soon anyway. So why would you begin to do anything before that time? I'm using my webcam today, so if it look a little grainy or whatever, that's why. But I don't know why I'm mentioning that. Oh yeah, I haven't really watched any other ones. I tried to watch a few of them earlier at the time and just wasn't feeling right. I'm like, I ain't feeling these right now. But when Queen Cove came back, I was like, okay, girl. And I watched her Taurus reading first. And it was so interesting because I feel like a lot of it could have spoken to where I would have been. Oh my gosh! And then there's a Hierophant with the Conqueror of Cups. You may be able to see it a little better. Yeah, you actually can, which is interesting. Let's see if I do this. I don't know what I expected. Growing up, anytime the teacher would like turn the lights off in a classroom, they'd be like, "Oh, where did Patrick go?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay, guys, ha 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 ha." Anyway, um, and it almost felt like the space I could have been if I didn't choose what I chose. And in some ways, there were some other things that were really interesting. I love Queen Cup. What's this? The Ruler of Swords. Oh my gosh. So I guess the King of Swords is going to start haunting me again. But anyway, I ended up taking a nap. And there are some dreams I have that aren't centered around me or that I don't appear in, which is fine. And I had a dream. I was working, it was like I was working on a show and something had happened with the production company to the point where they kept losing people. And they were getting down to finishing the show. And I remember they were like, thanks for sticking with it. Like, we're losing so many people right now. We basically write our own checks, right? Because the money was already budgeted and they're not paying people because all the people left. And there was someone who was giving their final performance. I can't remember if I was a judge or what, and or if I was just like there helping out. Um, and I can't remember what they were doing. But anyway, then flash forward to like there was this comic I was reading, but it was being voiced in my mind, and it showed like not animated, but like comic panels. And I remember thinking it was Dan Howell. I think that's his name from Phil and Dan, the YouTubers. I never really followed him, but I would see him all the time on the internet because, like, I don't know, people would post him. And he was telling a story. And the only reason why I'm coming live is because I just watched a piece of a video. I don't know why I felt led to the one I was felt led to because the story I didn't necessarily too much resonate with. Um, but I'm gonna go back and I kind of got two cards or two piles, so I'll go back and watch the second pile. Um, But in the dream, and it was so weird, but he was talking about how he had a friend, and I was like crying by the end of it in the dream, and I woke up wiping my eyes, and my eyes were dry IRL. So, um, but he said that there was a friend that he had grown up with, and they were looking forward to doing everything in life together. Having kids around the same time, raising their kids together, growing old together as buddies, like intertwining their families, creating families around each other. Um, and then there's that Ten of Cups. Ooh, with the devil. Oh, goodness. Creating families around each other. And something happened in his life where he got sidetracked. So he never had kids, he never settled down, but his other friend did. And like there was this one strip of him like changing the baby's diaper because his other friend had a kid and a wife and settled down, right? He was changing the baby's diaper and the baby like threw up, projectile threw up, like vomited in his face. It was kind of gross. But it was like a comic strip, so I didn't see like a real life baby throw up, right? It was just like a picture. Um, and then he was talking about how even though he didn't have his own family, how even though like he kind of sort of felt like he didn't hold up his end of the bargain, but he could still be involved in his friend's family. And how much joy that brought him. And then he was like, after the first fire, like I didn't have anything left to live for, basically. And that's when I found out that I guess his friend and his friend's family, they all perished in a fire, and it rocked him, and it set him into a depression. And he was talking, I guess he was kind of sort of talking to his friend in this comic strip. And I can't relate to this at all. I haven't lost a friend in a fire, and I never made a pact with anybody that, oh, we're going to raise our kids together and we're going to be friends forever. I've never done that. It's not really who I was, you know. I didn't do anything forever. And he was talking about after the first fire how just like there was nothing left in his life. And he was talking about everything that he kind of sort of went through and fell back into when he lost his friend, because it was kind of sort of like his friend had saved him in some way. But then he started talking about the second fire. And he was like, now after the second fire, I get like I have hope again. And I guess the second fire, like the first fire was an actual fire that happened that he lost his friend and the whole family to. But the second fire was kind of sort of an awakening. You know how there's dark nights? It was like the dawn after a dark night that came in and just lit everything up. Maybe it was a fire of understanding, or I don't know. I don't know what the fire was, because I mean he didn't really get into it, and that was towards the end of the dream. But at the end, he was like, after the second fire, I can really appreciate everything. How is this even on here? And why is this so precariously balanced? About how he could see everything differently. And he was like thanking his friend for everything that he invited him into. I'm going to pull 5 cards. Again, I don't know why I'm pulling cards. I don't know what this is. I don't know what to title this. But it was just interesting because I had this little dream when I took a few hours nap, or maybe like an hour's nap, about loss. And then there was kind of sort of a message of loss that came up. Bottom of the deck is, girl, what is this? The Seeker of Wands. Here's that Page of Wands energy again. And earlier today, the Seeker of Wands energy. Yeah, I'm holding this up and y'all probably can't even really like... Oh, wait, there we go. There we go. Hold up. Wait. Hopefully this isn't too long. Oh, it's only been like 10 minutes. Great. Okay. what was I talking about? I woke up and feeling someone else's loss. I got 5 cards on the table. It's 3 and then 2. I'll start with the second one in the middle up top. This is the Seeker of Swords. I hold these up and I hope you can see them. There we go. You're kind of catching glimpses of it. There, you see it in there. The Seeker of Swords. I think this is about understanding. Again, like after the first fire, I didn't understand why something like this would have happened. Like, it's kind of sort of like the energy of the last hope that I had, that even when I didn't do what I wanted with my own life in the time that I wanted to be there with you, like that you would still invite me in after everything happened was life changing. But then to lose that, and that being the only thing I really had to hold on to, like, why did that happen? What was the point? What is the purpose? Girl, what's this? Is this justice? No, it's the Four of Cups, but it almost looked like some scales. And the top cup has wings on it, and there's a third eye in the stem of the cup. The bottom 3 cups are turned upside down. And it's like the bottom 3 cups would have been. It's like the one in the middle is his friend, and the 2 on the outside, that's his friend's wife and his friend's son. And it's almost like their loss creates a foundation that elevates him. And sometimes loss is one of the only things that gets us to really appreciate life and gets us to appreciate what we have and gives us the courage to move forward and to not lose anymore, whether by choice or by incidents. I mean, I guess you can't really control incidents. And then here is the devil. There you go. You can see him in there. Yeah, how come he's the only one that really shows up? And so with this devil card, it's with these two together, this is being lost in the pain. But with the wings on this third cup, again, it's given that it gave him, after the second fire, after the awakening, after the realization, that was the second fire. The first fire was the house fire. It gave him his wings. But it came after a matter of time. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe this story in some ways will resonate to you in some ways that aren't necessarily exactly parallels, but maybe there was someone in your life that you look to as some sort of guide, and you really appreciated the grace that they had for you and the patience that they had with you, even when you deviated from the plans that you sort of dreamt up together to make a better life, to create a better life. Now, either this is you or this is someone else about you, right? And maybe the first fire is what happens when you become awakened and you reach that point where it's like, I can't continue. Like, the love doesn't go anywhere, but you can't continue to drag people along. And you can't continue to make excuses for people. You can't continue to enable people. And so, I don't know why Bill and Bob are the names that came into my mind. But we'll call the friend Bob, and we'll call the dude Dylan. So Bob and Dylan. Gosh, Bob Dylan. Okay. So Bob came to his own awakening. And Bob knew that him enabling Dylan was keeping Dylan in that same space. And like I said, the love that they had for each other never went anywhere, but Bob came into the understanding that he couldn't do that anymore. I haven't even read these cards yet. All I see is, okay, well, I just read this one. Okay, now I just read them. Wow, 99. This is extremely interesting. We have the Hermit and the Nine of Pentacles. Both of these are Virgo energy. And this is the 9 of Virgo energy, and that's the Hermit of Virgo energy. 9 of Earth and 9 related to Earth. Oh my gosh. 9 of Pentacles. That's the second decan of Virgo specifically. The 9 of Pentacles is. So we got 2 Virgo energies here. This is interesting. But it's like, yeah, the first fire, Dylan woke up. Or not Dylan, Bob woke up. And Bob was like, I can't do this anymore. And then that would also explain why Dylan had such a hard time. Because it's like, with Bob being the one person that never really judged him, that was always there. Like, even when he messed up, Bob was still there. Bob always had that love and that patience, but Bob realized that his presence was keeping Dylan from facing all the things that he really needed to face. And so the second fire is Dylan's awakening. And maybe after the second fire, Bob and Dylan come back together. And I guess this is interesting though, because the Hermit is on the Four of Cups side and the Nine of Pentacles is on the Devil side. I guess it makes sense though, because again, with the Nine of Pentacles, every coin features a crystal. Ooh, oh, I'm not going there, because that's a little too real. That's a lot too real for me. I'm not even going to mention it. But all of these pentacles feature a crystal. And so maybe someone had a problem with rocks. But it's like, no matter what Bob would have done, it never would have been enough to pull Dylan out of that space. Because there were things going on within Dylan that Bob would have never been able to address. Like, Dylan has to address his own things. And then after the second fire, then they'll be able to come together. But until that second fire, it's like Dylan is going to be on his own. But Bob and Bob's love is the foundation on which he can stand. It's almost a lesson. And this is interesting because this is basically, not basically, but some of this is what Queen Cup was saying in her Taurus reading. Like, there was a younger, more immature person, and, you know, you did some growing and some healing to try to become someone who could save them. But at the end of the day, they needed to save themselves. And so there's this kind of sort of disappointment that you feel or felt when it's like they were almost out of the shadows, but at the border of the light, they went back in. And it's because there were ties and tethers that they had to the darkness that they need to take care of themselves. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end this. I'm just going to title this Random Dream reading. And yeah, but it was really sad and heartbreaking after the first fire, or between the first and the second fires. But after the second fire, it was super emotional because it was like Dylan was finally getting it. It took him a while, and unfortunately Bob couldn't be there to see it all the way through. But at the end of the day, Dylan got where he needed to be. So I think Bob and Dylan are gonna come back, right? Thinking of the first fire as Bob's awakening, because the second fire was definitely Dylan's awakening. It came after his dark night related to the loss of Bob and all the stuff he was doing, and that the feeling of clarity of the new horizon, that's like definitely awakening. But because the whole story was told from the perspective of Dylan, so until I started pulling these, I never thought that maybe the first fire was Bob's awakening, and Bob was like, "I'm sorry, dude. I gotta like, it's time to purge." But yeah. Anyway, I already said that. I hope you're having a good whatever. Whenever you see this, I'm gonna upload this because I wanted to say something about the dream, but I was like, I don't want to just come live and say something about the dream. And then I saw that video, and I was like, and it's interesting because I heard growing up that there's a lot of super. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I heard growing up that there's a lot of superstition in Japan around the number 4 because there are 4 stages of life, and the 4th stage is death. Shinu is death in Japanese, I believe. To die is like Shinu, and the number 4 is Shi or Yon, but it's Shi. So you get the first part of death is the number 4. And someone's like, that's why the forks have 3 prongs, and this doesn't have 4, and that doesn't have 4, because 4 is a bad, it's a bad whatever. And we're living in a 4 year, 2020. And 13, the death card is also a 4. But it's more about transformation than it is about actual death. I can't remember why the number 4 and She just popped into my mind. Can't remember where I was going with that, but 13 is a 4, so it fits. Yeah, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna upload this. Bye.